Hi, my name is Tajara Beecham, and I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Tony Brown on the topic of African American history makers in Iowa City. Hi, Mr. Tony Brown. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So, how long have you been living in Iowa?
How long have I been living in Iowa? I grew up in Iowa. I just moved back to Iowa 3 years ago from Belize, from West Indies. From Central America. And so I've been back in Iowa City now for 3 years, but I grew up in Waterloo and went to college here and performed in the state and so forth.
While you were in Belize, what were you doing?
Music and civil organization music.
With your reggae music?
Reggae music, yeah. We were basically the band and musicians I played with back in the 60s were groundbreakers because a lot of black bands weren't playing in the places we played at, and we didn't get any recognition too much. Number one, because we're in Iowa. But we opened a lot of doors up for a lot of people. We had a totally integrated band, so we were doing a lot of things that hadn't been done yet in the state.
How did it feel in the civil rights movement, like not getting notified and not getting recognized for all the things you were doing?
Well, you never expect it to. We were just trying to make a living and have fun.
Oh.
At a certain point, we began to understand the social, political aspects of what we were doing because in some cases we go to some towns and we get met by policemen or after the show we get escorted out of town by policemen. And so you start realizing that somebody's paying attention to you playing in these towns, and there's a reason why they are. Unbeknownst to us at the time, it was a highly politically charged situation in some of these places to have us come and play because we're basically playing for all white audiences. And then our fans from like Cedar Rapids and Des Moines and Waterloo and Davenport were coming and following us. So all of a sudden you were getting integrated crowds at these places that normally didn't have more than one black person in the county.
Yeah.
So it began to break through, and it was during the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War. So it was a pretty charged time period, for social reform and social development in the state as well as in the nation and the world.
During this time, were you involved in any other organizations or activities other than?
Yeah, I was. I was involved with the Black Panther Party. I was involved with somewhat with the NAACP and different other civic organizations. I call them civic organizations. Other people call them other things. But we were all in focusing on making the black communities more secure, more educated, and more self-reliant on education and inner strength within our communities. We're trying to organize people to realize the power that we had in numbers versus the power we had from an economic state. We didn't have too much power, but we had a lot of people who all shared the same issues, the same social political issues. So it was very important to be involved with these organizations because other than the churches at the time, it was the only thing that gave black people hope in the state of Iowa. With somebody with the nerve to stand up and say, this is not right to treat human beings this way, and we are American citizens and we demand our rights. So.
You mentioned the churches. How did the church play a part in your life during that time?
The church was basically the first organized black Afro-American entity in my life because of the fact that's where we all congregated. Every Sunday, back in those days, we all had to go to Sunday school. Everybody had to go to Sunday school, and then if you could sit still long enough, you go to the church service. But it was the message of spirituality or religion at that point was very essential because that was another aspect that gave us hope that God was working with us if we maintained goodness in our lives, and God would be there to help us. So it was a very important security blanket, more or less, in going through the social difficulties that we were all experiencing mutually.
Okay, while you were being involved in the organization, what did your family and friends think about that, and how they react to that?
Well, my family had always been involved. My grandfather was Grand Exalted Ruler of the Black Elks Club in Waterloo, which they had a marching band, drum and bugle corps, and they had a big auditorium, and every weekend they had, you know, big shows, big musical concerts like James Brown and Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles and Etta James and Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Bo Diddley and the Impressions and all those people. They brought them to Iowa to perform on the weekends. Back in the days as well in Waterloo, there was a lot of industry. There was Rath Packing House, there was John Deere's, of course, and Chamberlain's, which were all employing 3/4 of the black population of the town. So black people back then economically had more flexibility than they do even now. Because there were more black people working in those factories. All of my uncles and aunts and either worked at John Deere's or Rath Packing House. So the black people had a little bit more money. There were more job opportunities because there was more demand for labor at that time period.
So, like, being involved in the Black Panther Party, did your friends look at you funny for trying to?
No. Yet back then in those days, everybody was socially and politically motivated. You know, with Martin Luther King and with H. Rap Brown, with the Black Panther Party, with the NAACP, with all the black organizations that existed, black people were very much involved with civil rights movement at the time period. So it wasn't ever looked at a thing like your friends looked at you weird, because we were all doing it. This was life or death. We thought this was the great confrontation with the government that would bring equality finally to black people in Iowa and the United States. So when there was a march on Washington, there was a large congregation of people that went from Iowa. You know, it was a very important thing. Whereas now people see you get involved with social or civil activities and they look at you weird, you know.
That's why I asked that.
It's not cool, but I think it's cool to save people's lives. More cool than hip than to look good or to know the newest hip hop artist or to wear the right clothes or hang out with the right people. To protect the future of black people and the people of the world is more important than being hip.
That's true.
You know?
So, like, with all being involved in all that through your life, like, did it help you accomplish anything?
Well, it gave me a sense of self, and it gave me a sense of community, that I knew that everything that I do was not just for myself. It was for the people that died, that didn't get to fulfill their dreams. My mother never got to fulfill her dreams. My cousins never got to fulfill their dreams. And so now I'm representing. You know, I'm not only representing them, I'm representing the next group of people that want to go through and do something with their life positively. I know it's possible because I've done it already.
Is that what inspires your music a lot of the times?
Yes, totally.